All right, good morning all. We'll go ahead and get started. We are looking at going through SQL functions today, both single row and group. And then that should get you all, that should all get you ready for assignment 4, which is the goal. So last week we talked about working with joins as a starting point, just do a little review. And we talked about, when we are talking about doing joins, working with multiple tables, we are talking about different types of joins, whether it be inner, outer, or self joins. So you take that into, you take those three join types into account, and by applying the concepts of the set theory, you can in fact put together queries that you are working on in assignment 3. So the next topic we are going to approach is working with functions. And we want to look at a number of single row functions that are in these areas, whether the different data types, and that won't take very long for us to review. Then we are going to look at the group functions, and you're going to be using majority of the group functions in lab 4. And there is also a topic of subqueries, which we will deal with in assignment 5 probably next time. So lots to capture here. So let's start. So when you are working with functions, we have these two topics. So single row functions and group functions that we mentioned. So what is a function in general? A function is going to have an input, and function is going to have an output. And generally, one function will have one output only, assuming you can provide lots of input, lot of input arguments. And function is generally performing an action. With functions, we have two types of functions that either act on one row at a time, or they act on multiple rows and produce one result. Example there would be in multiple row, finding an average of 5 numbers. With single row, it might be that you are trying to do some string concatenation, and you use the concat function for each row, and that basically formats the data to our requirement. So that is basically what I just said, that all the things about single row function. And the single row functions in SQL can be nested, so you can take the output of one and make it the input of the other. So There are these different types of functions depending on the data type. So we're going to look through each one of those, starting with the character function. So character function, we have case conversion and character manipulation functions. So case conversion functions, you got lower, upper, and init cap, which basically converts the casing to lower or upper, or makes the first letter uppercase. And when we have character manipulation functions, we have those 6. We'll demonstrate the usage of each, starting with lower, upper, and init cap. You can clearly see how each one of these functions operate. Init cap is going to make the first letter uppercase for you for each word. These functions can be used either in the select clause or in the where clause. Generally, in the select clause, they are for massaging the data for output. In the where clause, it's more for when you are ready to compare values. The character manipulation functions, we have concat, which will concatenate 2 strings. Substring will find, when we use string 1, 3, it means starting with the first letter, give me 3 strings or give me 3 characters. So it brings out a substring. Length of the string just tells you how many characters it has. In-string, in-str tells you the location of a string inside another. So if a string is contained in another, you basically get that. LPAD, please take note of this. You'll be using this in lab 5, I think, 4 or 5. LPAD will be used, and what it's doing is putting an asterisk or bunch of them based on a width of 10. So it prints the value of salary using a width of 10, and it will prefix the rest of the string with asterisks. Then we have trim, which basically removes a character from a string. If you use trim without any arguments and just provide the string, it'll get rid of the leading and trailing spaces. But if you specify a character, then this is what happens. The usage of the character functions in a select statement. And you can see the usage of the substring where we look at job 1, 5, which basically looks at the job description, pulls out the first 5 letters of the job title. Then we have number functions. Round, truncate, and mod. They behave very differently. So round will round, truncate will basically not round and show the value to a specified decimal, and mod just returns the remainder. Each one is demonstrated so you can see the usage in detail. And you'll also get to see the difference between round and truncate. So the round function, when used with 2, 0 and -1, you can see how the value is rounded. When we say 45.923 with a -1, that's rounding it to the 10th place, producing a value of 50. Truncate does not round, so it just simply when I say to 2 decimal places, it just gets rid of the last digit. When we say just truncate, that produces 45. When we say -1, it actually produces 40. These two slides, round and truncate, should illustrate the usage fairly well for you all. Then you have the mod function that basically shows the remainder of salary and commission. If the result of mod is same as the salary, that means that either they made higher commission than salary, or if it's 0 or none at all, right? Trying to make meaning of usage of mod in a reasonable way in this context is kind of hard, but it's there, so figure it. Go figure. I mean, how mod will be used. We then have how the dates are manipulated in Oracle. Oracle dates are organized with several properties, starting with century all the way down to seconds. And there is a default format which is called DDMMYY, using 2-digit years. Sysdate is a pre-existing function that returns the current date and time on the server. And dual is a dummy table that is used for viewing sysdate. So you'll see a demonstration of this in a little bit. You can do arithmetic with dates. You can add and subtract. You can add and subtract a number to or from a date from a resultant date value. You can subtract 2 dates or add hours. So how do you use arithmetic on dates? We say sysdate minus higher date divided by 7. So when we say sysdate, that puts the value of the system date in a temporary table that I talked about called dual, and then from there it's fetched. We look at the higher date and then divide that by 7. When we subtract 2 dates, the result is in number of days, and then that's being divided by 7 to convert to weeks. These are all the functions that allow the arithmetic between date functions, and we should see the demonstration of each one of these functions as we progress through the slides. So months between shows you the number of months between two dates. Adding a month will add months will add months, So we just, in this case, say date and then 6, and you can see the result. We go from Jan through July. Next day function is basically from a given date, when is the next Friday? So that's what that would return. And what's the last day of the month? That's what the last day function returns. You can look at how the round function works. So we use round, and if we use the round to round the month, we get 1st of August. If we use round for the year, we get the, we basically round the year. And the date is altered to 1st accordingly. Truncating, however, behaves a little differently. With truncate, we say this with month, and we just go back to the 1st of that month. And same for the year. When we say truncate, we don't round, and we go to the 1st of that year. And then, considering we have talked so much about the different data types, we can also talk about data type conversion. So we can have implicit or explicit data type conversion. Implicit happens when you are working with expression. So when a varchar 2 or char is received in the expression, and if it's being assigned to, say, a number or a date, that conversion happens automatically. And vice versa for number or date, if assignment is happening to varchar 2, that will occur automatically. When you're working with expression, before assignment, if you have to take varchar 2 or char and add it with a number, the Oracle implementation will convert the varchar 2 or char to a number or date. And that conversion does happen automatically. We do explicit data type conversion using one of these three functions: to number, to date, or to char. And with each one of them, there is a formatting criteria that can be specified. That can be specified for the purpose. So here is the toChar function that can convert the other two data types to a character. And as you can see, you specify if you have to convert the date, You specify the format and it will convert that to a string. The format must be provided in a single quote. And these are the tenets of the the formatting for the date data type. So if I want a 4-digit in year, or I want the year spelled out, or I want the month spelled out, or the day spelled out, then I can do then I can use these. Of course, nothing is complete until we actually look at an example. So let's do that. This is how you specify the format in single quotes. First one is a timestamp in military time. The second one is spelling out the month, and if you want the day spelled out, then you just say DDSPF, and it'll spell out the day for you. Here is the usage in practice, so you can kind of see how it's being used. If you're trying to convert numbers, then this is the formatting criteria. If you want to use like a local currency symbol, you just say L, and then whatever is the database is configured with, it will use that. So here we look at the number conversion to a character string. So in this case, we are using a comma delimiter for the thousandth operator, and we are also using that we want to basically print the nine numbers. So here is converting the number or a date to a string using the same idea. You have to specify the formatting. You have to specify the formatting, and then we use that. So toNumber with a string to convert it to a number, and same for toDate. There is another format that represents the 4-digit year versus 2 digits. And so in the RR date format, the year looks different than the YY format. And it's good to understand this. If the current year is between 0 to 49, then So if the current year, let's say, is 2001, and the date specified in the database is 20th of October 2017, in RR format it will look like 2017, and so in YY. If the date specified is like 1995, in RR format it will look right, but in YY format it will look like 2095. This will skew the results of some output. And if you can see the same with 1995 too, it takes the year 2017. In RR format it looks okay, but in YY format it takes us back in the century. So the best thing to do is use the RR format and always try to represent the year in four characters. So then the most familiar function for you, the NVL function. NVL function deals with null values. So if it's a number or a string or a date, then you can specify a default value using the NVL function. And data types must match. Why use NVL function? Anything added to null becomes null. Anything added to null basically becomes null. So that's why the usage of an NVL function helps with avoidance of null. We also have the decode function, which is like an if-else statement. So what happens is we provide an expression and then search the result pair with a default value, kind of like this. So in this case, we are saying that if job is equal to analyst, then salary update should be 10%. If job is equal to clerk, salary is 15% increase. And if it's manager, then increase by 20%. So this is a row-wise function that gets applied to produce the outcome that you see. The first expression is just a column or expression that is specified, and then there's a condition check. So, but we don't write it as an if statement, but we just provide a bunch of inputs using a comma operator. The last thing is the default value that this thing will have. So another example of Decode, which is dealing with tax rate, and as you can see in specification of the expression we have the truncate, and there is the final tax rate, which is, when you divide the salary by 1,000, if the result is 0 through 6, then there is the respective tax percentages or respective tax rates. So functions can be nested, and in SQL we have to do that since we are only writing programs that are single lines. So if we want to do a lot, we don't have the luxury of computing in one line and taking it in the next. So nesting means take the result of F1 and put it in F2 and so on. Our next thing is, this is how the nesting can work. Or this is how nesting works. We are taking the toChar function result and putting it into the NVL function, all for the purpose of selection. So this is what we're going to be using in lab 4, all these group functions. Group functions operate on a set of rows to give one result per group or per subgroup. And subgrouping is going to be demonstrated with the group by function. So in this case, we are trying to find the maximum salary. So these are the several group functions: average, count, max, min, standard deviation, sum, and variance. So you can do simple group function computations or correlations. Like joins, especially with outer joins, there were all those limitations. We're going to see a lot of limitations here as well. So we see group functions, usage in the select clause, and we're also going to have a group by clause where we can basically use subgroups. Again, you have to see all of this in play before it's all understood. So if we were to take the entire table and treat it as one group, then this is the result we would see. We're saying give us the average, max, min, and sum salary for all employees that have a job, that are salesmen, basically. So when you do that, you basically get, one row with all the results. Here is usage of min and max. The point is that these functions will work with all data types. So I've got date data type, number data type, so I can use all the different data types with these functions. And then you see the count function that can be used to essentially to count the number of rows. You can also say, if you put a count on a column that has null rows or null values, it will only count the non-null values. So when ignoring the non-null values, the results can be either might look normal or contrived. Because if I'm taking an average of commission with null values, non-null values only, but if my total count is supposed to include every row, then the result is not accurate. So to make that work, I can take the null value and convert that to a number, and then convert that to a number and use it. So how does grouping of data actually work with subgroups? So if I say group by department number, this is what happens. It's going to say department number 10, 20, and 30 and give me the average salaries. So how do I write this condition? I definitely don't put it in the where clause. That's where I have the group by clause. If you try and put a group function in the where clause, it'll give you a syntax error. So we do it in the group by clause like this. That will that will achieve the results that we desire. So doing a group by department number. Group by, of course, works with also all data types. And any columns that you put in the group by clause do not have to be in the select list, but showing it here just kind of shows you how group by works. But if I just wanted to print the average values for each department without using the department number in the select list, I can certainly do that. Sorry about that. One moment, please. So as we said, the group by clause, the values do not have to be in the select list. So we can avoid that usage. We can also do a group by on more than one column, like total salaries by department and by job. So if we do a group by on two columns, the results will show something like this. So if we say group by department number, comma, job. So group by department number and job will show that report. This would be an illegal query. Any column or expression in the select list that is using a group function must be defined in the group by clause. Very important. Otherwise, we'll get that error, column missing in the group by function. So we cannot use where clause for group data. So this is the why we have the group by function. So, and if there is a group result that we don't want, we don't use where, we use having. So like if I don't want to print the result of department 30 after the group data has been calculated, then I can use the having clause for that. So that's where we'll specify the group condition and output the result. Something like that, saying having max salary greater than 2,900. So There is also another usage of having shown here, a rather large query. What do you guys think this query is trying to show? Somebody wants to take an opportunity and or take a minute and try to describe what this query is trying to do. Any ideas, anybody? So we are computing the total salary of all people not in sales and producing a nice ordered report for that. Correct. Yeah, a couple of you got it. Here is nesting the functions, group functions. Finding the maximum of the average salary. So finding the highest average salary for a department. That's how it's done. So I think with this, you all are ready for the first, with lab 4. We do have to talk about subqueries, but I'd like to take that on next time. And on lab 4, you guys have about 5 queries to work on. Display the manager number and the salary of the lowest paid employee for that manager. That's the first question. So we will obviously be using the min function with joins. You'll need to do join, a self-acqui join, and then apply the group by clause. So the next function or next query is count and average in a department. It's going to use the count and the average function. Third question, we have got salary, grade, so you'll need to do a join with sal grade. And then you're going to find minimum salary and average commission for each department. The reason you need to do a join is you have to display the department name and salary grade. So you're going to have to do a join between employee, department, and sal grade. And salary grade should be based on the average salary, not accounting for commission. Question number 4, you guys just try these out with different examples and then provide an explanation that will show how count works, how the count function works. Avoid usage of internet resources for this, but try to go through your your own examples. And last one is just a little easy one because it's just a select statement where you apply the basic single row functions and then you're done. So, okay. So this lab will give you a little bit of a relief than 3. 3 has got more. 3 has got a bit of more challenge because you're working with joins. So that is all I have for today, folks. I will see you all next week and we'll talk about subqueries at that time and then get you ready for the next lab. And in fact, your midterm is coming up soon as well, not to forget that, which is on May 23rd. So have a great rest of the day, folks, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.